Daddy D's here, and it's time for another Poundland Special. It's also around about that time of year that I tend to do a Halloween special as well. So I thought, what the hell, let's combine the two together and have ourselves a Poundland Halloween special. Now what we're going to do today is take a look at a bunch of scary movies. That's just over there. Some movies are scary, one of them in particular is so mind-bogglingly awful that it's actually terrifying. So, let's go and take a look and see what they've got. Steve Coogan's character Paul Calf once said that amongst every bag of shite there is a speck of gold, and the truth can be said of pound shops. They can be oftentimes a utopia of absolute crap. Proof here? Oh look, the Catwoman movie. Yes, I'm sure that's going to be worth a watch. So, the Catwoman movie. This had been teased for years and years following the ending of the 1992 feature film Batman Returns, and indeed Michelle Pfeiffer was meant to reprise her role as Selina Kyle. So, what happened? Well, the film went into what is known as development limbo, and eventually Michelle Pfeiffer's name was removed from the project altogether. After this, it just looked like Catwoman was going to be just another superhero movie that was cancelled. Until we got to the year 2004, when the Catwoman movie was finally released. And after all this time, what we got was this utter garbage. In fact, it's so mind-bogglingly terrible that real cats would likely feel compelled to bury it in the sand, if you know what I mean. Basically, it's just your run-of-the-mill fashion designer gets murdered by her boss, then strangely gains advanced martial arts ability and superhuman cat-like reflexes type story. Oh yes, I'm sure we've all heard that one before. Okay, let me just say, this has nothing to do with the Batman comics. Catwoman isn't even Selina Kyle here, she's a completely different character. For God's sake, it's not even set in Gotham City. Clearly, Warner Brothers were just banking on people willing to fork out money just so they could see Halle Berry's boobies squashed into skin-tight black rubber. When really, if you want to see those Berry tatty bojangles, then all you have to do is watch Swordfish. Just as long as you don't mind the sight of John Travolta's weird-looking helmet hair. Still, I have to give Halle Berry credit for actually showing up to the Razzie Awards, one of only a few people to actually do this, and accept her golden raspberry in person.
Thank you for putting me in a piece of shit god-awful movie. You know, it was just what my career needed, you know?
Now, just because Catwoman is going to be in the next Batman film, entitled The Dark Knight Rises, don't let that make you feel compelled to check out this particular movie, even if it is a quid. Avoid Catwoman with every measure of restraint you can muster, or suffer the consequences, because you'll never get that hour and a half back. And what else? Oh, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of straight-to-video stuff. Oh, look. Gladiators, Sky One. But, oh look at that, and dance workout videos featuring former Big Brother contestants. Brilliant stuff, very classy. But, you know, sometimes... Oh, hang on, look at this. That's one I've reviewed previously, Mega Piranha, from the studio that brought you Mega Shark vs. Giant Octopus, starring pop star Tiffany. Mega Piranha comes from a film company known as The Asylum, who specialise in mockbusters. Basically, what they will do is quickly knock out their own version of a movie which is about to come out at the cinema, but give it a very similar sounding title. For example, when Transformers was about to come out at the cinemas, The Asylum released Transmorphers. Not too long after Snakes on a Plane came out, The Asylum had Snakes on a Train. When High School Musical 3 was about to come out, The Asylum replied with Sunday School Musical, etc, etc, etc. Now, there is the odd time where The Asylum will do an original movie, and not just a shameless rip-off, but they will make sure that it has an over-the-top, eye-catching title, such as Mega Shark vs. Giant Octopus, starring 80s pop star Debbie Gibson, who recorded such songs as Foolish Beat and Shake Your Love. You might also recall that Debbie Gibson's main rival in the pop charts was Tiffany, best known for the song I Think We're Alone Now, which you can likely still hear being played in flares on a Saturday night. Well, guess what? Tiffany is in Mega Piranha. I guess the royalties she got from her pop career still wasn't enough to buy a surname then. I guess in a way, this makes this movie a semi-sequel, or at least a spin-off from Mega Shark vs. Giant Octopus. Or you could say this movie was made purely to cash in on another Piranha movie being released in the cinema at that time. Hey, if that's not enough for you, then how about Mega Python vs. Gatoroid, which stars both Debbie and Tiffany together in the same movie? And if the sight of seeing the two of them wrestling together doesn't swing that for you, then how about the cheeky and ever so slightly cheesy references to their 80s pop rivalry?
What? Do you hear something? What? No. I think we're alone now.
You know, I'm seriously going to have to review Mega Shark vs. Giant Octopus at some point, mainly because it's one of those movies that are so god-awfully bad that it's actually rather entertaining. Like an Ed Wood movie, really. As expected, Mega Piranha falls into the same category, as giant prehistoric piranhas chew on half-naked women and jump high enough out of the water to snatch helicopters out of the sky. This echoes a very similar scene in Mega Shark vs. Giant Octopus, where the shark in question plucks a passenger jet from mid-air. In fact, these fishy fuckers seem to be quite keen to leap out of the water at great heights and distance to get at their prey. And they're doing all this with no means by which to get themselves back into the water afterwards. Seems to me they'd eventually simply beach themselves into extinction. Now, the whole movie is of an extremely low budget. It's very silly and it's very over the top, and you can expect to see plenty of porn star quality acting without the actual porn, along with plenty of cheeky stock footage and rubbish special effects. 80s pop star Tiffany is joined by Z-movie actor Paul Logan, who could hold a masterclass in action movie scowling. And just check out this scene of him bicycle kicking a pack of piranhas to death. Don't mess with this guy. By the end of the film, these two share their first kiss together, which is a bit out of place considering that there's been no sexual chemistry between the two whatsoever up till this point. In fact, considering that Tiffany's character is the one responsible for these piranhas going on a rampage in the first place, it would have made more sense for Paul Logan to lock some handcuffs on her, rather than his lips. The actors certainly seem to be taking this movie very seriously, which certainly adds to the amusement.
It wasn't terrorists. It was giant piranha. Yes, sir, giant piranha.
Unfortunately, even with giant piranhas flying everywhere and a guy's head exploding after being shot in the mouth with a flare gun, I felt that it didn't go far enough as far as being ridiculous was concerned. Come on, Asylum. We all know that your films are a bit crap, so just go full out and be as daft as your budget allows. If the film had been a bit more over the top and given more of a wink to the audience just to show it was a bit more self-aware of how stupid this all was, then maybe it would have been better to watch. As it stands, Mega Piranha soon gets very boring very quickly, and even at £1, I would find it hard to recommend this. Phew! Well, after a couple of crappy movies, I think we need something decent now, don't you? Well, thankfully, you can always rely on a few decent zombie movies to arrive in Poundland, and even in 99p stores in this next movie's case. So next up is Colin, the £45 zombie movie. Unfortunately, despite seeing this DVD in both Poundland and 99p stores, by the time it came to film some footage for this review, it had sold out everywhere. Reports that the director of the movie, Mark Price, had been seen buying 45 copies of the DVD in order to fund his next project have not yet been confirmed. Unlike most zombie movies, which tend to follow the story based on the perspective of the survivors of a zombie apocalypse, Colin instead turns the idea on its head and takes us straight to the places where only the zombies dare to dwell, as this story is told from the perspective of one of the undead themselves. The title character is bitten, dies and returns zombified. We then follow his shambling journey across suburban London as the apocalypse opens up around him and humanity gives in to its most primal instincts. And from this point of view, it is the humans that are the true monsters here. This movie literally changes the way we see zombies. Rather than being some monster that has to be killed, Colin hits on the fact that these poor creatures are, or at least used to be, someone's friend or someone's brother, someone's boyfriend, girlfriend, someone's mum or dad. How would any of us act, truthfully, if one of our loved ones became the living dead? Would we really be so keen to smash their head in, or put a bullet in their brain? I very much doubt it. So yes, this movie was made with a budget of £45, and you can kind of tell really, as there are a few points in the film where it looked a little rough around the edges. There's also a number of scenes where it often got so dark you had a bit of a job trying to see what was going on. But having said that, the sound of the makeup effects are particularly good for such a small budget, and it has been brilliantly shot and acted throughout. Colin shows that you don't need a massive budget to make a really good movie. Just a lot of creativity, passion and imagination. Which is something that Michael fucking Bay needs to understand. As Colin travels across London searching for his girlfriend, we're not entirely too sure if he wants to eat her or just be with her, but it does highlight that within every flesh-eating zombie, there is still that one little speck of humanity struggling to get out. Because look, they have Resident Evil, Degeneration, a Resident Evil movie that's actually good. Well, let's take a look, shall we? So, after a couple of truly awful live-action Resident Evil movies, how does this CGI'd effort manage? Well, it certainly seems closer to the video game than the Paul Anderson-directed mess, but unfortunately, that's part of this film's problem. It's too much like the games. As in, just like the games, Resident Evil Degeneration is filled with cheesy dialogue and terrible voice acting.
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
Oh, Barry!
Now, whilst this is very much part of the video game's charm, the difference is that if this movie was a game, you could just skip these talky cutscenes and get straight to the action. Although having said that, there's not a right lot of action either. Considering the amount of blood and gore that's in the games, Resident Evil Degeneration is virtually bloodless, and there's very little in the way of zombie action. Oh sure, we get a huge pack of dead heads within the first 20 minutes, but these are quickly disposed of, and they aren't really any further threats until the big monster at the finale. The rest of the film is padded out with conspiracy theories, lots of droning explanation as to what's going on, and an awkward romance between Resident Evil 2 and 4's Leon Kennedy and new character Angela that makes the romance in Attack of the Clones look considerably less creepy, which is quite an achievement. To make matters worse, the characters' voices rarely, if ever, match exactly with the movements of the characters' mouths. The film takes place 7 years after the events of the video games Resident Evil 2 and 3, which is where the original zombie outbreak took place. Resident Evil 2 was also the game where Leon and Claire met for the first time, and their reunion here in this film has several references to that game. This only highlights another problem with the film, in which it's obvious that it was made with the mindset that anyone who watches this would have played all the games. And unless you've got an encyclopedic knowledge of the Resident Evil universe, there are going to be a number of times when you watch this film and go, huh? Even the direction by Makoto Kamayi, who was the special effects director on the Gamera trilogy, along with Godzilla Giant Monsters Attack, doesn't really get this film going, and it only serves to remind you just how better this was about 10 years ago when you were playing it on your PlayStation. Don't get me wrong, the film is certainly worth watching, but probably not more than once. Unless, of course, they release some kind of playable version of this. Unless you're a die-hard fan of the series, then I certainly wouldn't pay full price for it. But for £1, yeah, why not? Go for it. Although this is a lot better than the live-action Resident Evil movies, really, if you want an idea of what an adaptation of the Resident Evil games would be like, I would strongly suggest that you read the novels by S.D. Perry. Well, that's it for another Halloween here on the Big Daddy D Reviews. I hope you enjoyed that, and please keep a lookout for more movie reviews coming soon. But until next time, this is the Big Daddy D signing out. Goodbye. Oh my God.